Back live to Ottawa now, federal Conservative Leader Pierre Poilievre speaking to his caucus. Let's listen in live.
A real debt crisis for all Canadians in this country. This situation cannot continue. We thought you had agreed because 2 months ago, your Minister of Finance said it's enough, COVID is over, we shall stop spending, and sent out letters to ministers, her colleagues, saying if you want to spend more, you will need to find savings to pay the bill. She even said that the deficit was going to put fuel on the inflation. So we were expecting a budget that will eliminate those expenses. There was an economic update 6 months ago that promised a balanced budget in 2027. Mr. Justin Trudeau, we are not talking about the broken promises of 8 years ago. We are talking of promises that were made 6 months ago that are being broken with the budget that is before the House of Commons. And that is why I have announced this week that I will use all parliamentary tools necessary to prevent the adoption of this budget, unless you promise a plan to balance the budget to reduce the inflation and the interest rates. That's exactly what we need. The only way to avoid this financial crisis is to reduce the inflation and interest rates before the mortgages are renewed in 2026 and 2027. Otherwise, the crisis will be massive and incendiary. Therefore, today, I will rise in the House of Commons to debate the budget, and I will continue talking and talking without stopping to prevent adoption of this budget. And if at any point the Prime Minister wants me to allow adoption of this budget, he himself can rise to announce the year when we will have a balanced budget. If he wants me to stop blocking his budget, he should start balancing the budget. It's that simple. That's common sense, my friends. That's simple common sense. We'll reduce prices by eliminating the inflationary deficit and the carbon tax that will allow at 20 cents a litre in Quebec. We will increase paychecks by reducing taxes so that work can be more profitable and help our small and medium-sized enterprises and businesses to create more industries. We shall make homes affordable by reducing the paperwork to allow more construction. We'll bring back safety on our streets with severe sentences for crimes by recidivists. We will ensure freedom by giving Canadians the right to be able to express themselves without any censorship. Ladies and gentlemen in the room, my Conservative friends, we will continue fighting for Canadians to save our economy from this crisis, to make sure that ordinary people with common sense, take control of their finances. We will bring back common sense to our country. Thank you very much.
So, Justin, how do you expect people to pay their bills now? You remember? You told them that debt had no consequences, that interest rates would be low for long, and people could borrow as much as they wanted, and there'd be no problem. And now, in a span of a year, interest rates have gone up by 4.5 percentage points, a 19 times increase in barely a year. Canadians who believed Justin Trudeau enough to take on monster million-dollar mortgages in order to afford the inflated homes that they had to buy in formerly affordable communities now don't know how they're going to make their monthly bills. We already see Canadians experiencing $600 and $700 monthly increases in their mortgage payments. And according to the Bank of Canada, over the next 3 years, a large share of Canadian households will see their mortgage payments go up by 40%. I want you to think of what that means. If you're paying $3,000 a month, you could see your mortgage payment go up by $1,400. That's over $15,000 a year for a family that brings home $80,000 after tax. That vaporizes a quarter, or in some cases even a third, of their entire take-home pay, not for mortgage payments, but just for increases in mortgage payments. Now, we have, after 8 years of Justin Trudeau, the most indebted households in the G7. Over $2 trillion of household debt. In other words, household debt is equal to the size of the entire Canadian economy today. Think of what this means mathematically. Every 1 percentage point increase in interest rates equals 1% of our GDP. A 2 percentage point increase, 2%, which is more than the average annual growth of our economy. We've had a 4.5% increase in 1 year. This is on the verge of becoming a crisis. And that is an overused term, but I want you to consider this. The people who took out million-dollar mortgages in 2021 and 2022 will be up for renewal after their 5 years in 2026 and 2027. As these hundreds of billions of dollars of debt collide with the massive increases in interest rates, there will be a severe default crisis. That is not according to me. That is according to last week's report from the IMF, which says that Canada is the single most at-risk country for mortgage defaults of any country in the G7. Justin Trudeau, you are, and your spending, your out-of-control debt and taxation are leading us headlong into a full-scale financial crisis, and I will not let you do it. Now, it is true that the government does not set the interest rates, but it does set the policy that drives inflation, which forces the bank to raise interest rates. And if you don't believe me on that, I know I've been saying it like a broken record for 3.5 years. If you don't believe me, then listen to the Liberals themselves. John Manley, the former Liberal Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister, said that Justin Trudeau, by spending all this money and running all these deficits, is putting his foot on the inflationary gas pedal, while the Bank of Canada is pressing down on the brakes with higher interest rates. Stephen McNeil, former Liberal Premier of Nova Scotia, recently said that it is, in fact, domestic deficit spending that is causing the inflation and not some global factor. Indeed, the Governor of the Bank of Canada has said that the inflation in Canada today is a domestic phenomenon, not something Justin Trudeau can simply blame on the rest of the world. Other bank governors and Liberal insiders have now admitted the exact same thing. So in other words, the domino effect he is creating by running these deficits is that he drives up inflation, which drives up interest rates, which could drive up defaults. What do we do to save Canadians from this financial catastrophe? The answer is to reverse the policies that got us into the mess in the first place. Absolutely. And look, we thought that the Liberals agreed, because it was only 6 months ago they put forward a fall economic update which promised to balance the budget by 2027. Now he says balanced budgets are dangerous. Well, only 6 months ago he said he was going to do it. This is not a promise from 8 years ago, when he ran for office on all of his lofty promises and unrealistic commitments. This was 6 months ago, when his finance minister wrote her fellow colleagues and said, you'll have to find savings to match the new spending. And she said that deficits pour fuel on the inflationary fire. She was absolutely right, up until the point where she introduced a budget that poured $60 billion of inflationary fuel on the fire. That's $4,200 in new inflation for every family in Canada. Well, Conservatives are fighting back. We have announced that we are going to use every parliamentary tool in our toolkit to block this disastrous, risky, and inflationary budget from passing until the Prime Minister makes the commitment to balance the budget in order to bring down inflation and interest rates. And today I am announcing that I will be on my feet at roughly 7 p.m. to stand up against this budget, and I will keep speaking and keep speaking and keep blocking this inflationary train wreck until the Prime Minister rises with a plan to balance the budget and bring down inflation and interest rates.
Okay, that is Conservative leader, opposition leader in Ottawa, Pierre Poilievre, rallying his caucus today, taking on the Liberal government there for its policies, which he says are leading to inflation. Of course, this after the Bank of Canada raised its key interest by 0.25% earlier today.